Good morning, you two. Welcome to Monday's maths lesson, where today we will be focusing on fractions. Today you will need your home learning book, your White Rose Hub sheet downloaded on Seesaw with the video, and any concrete resources that you'll be able to collect later in the lesson, where you'll be able to see some real life fractions in your learning. If you need to pause the video to collect any of these resources, you can do so now. Okay, so this week for our mental math starters, we are carrying on our math magician theme and seeing if you can read my mind. However, instead of numbers this week, I will be thinking of either a 2D or a 3D shape and using the clues to see if you can read my mind. So let's take a look at the first clue. It is a 2D shape, which means it can be found as a face on a 3D shape. Other than that, it is flat. It has two long sides and two short sides, and it can be found on a cuboid. See if you can pause video now and write or draw the shape that I am thinking of. Brilliant! The shape I was thinking of was a rectangle because it has two short sides, two long sides, it's 2D and it can be found on the face of a cuboid. Well done, you two. Okay, so for this week we are going to be doing our maths learning all around fractions. Now fractions are part of our everyday life and we'll see them all the time, sometimes without even realising that it's maths or that we're even seeing fractions. So a fraction is where a whole, whether this is a whole shape, a whole object, an amount or a whole number, is split into equal parts. So let's have a look at some pictures that represent fractions. So the first one we've got is a cake, and the cake shows a fraction because it is one whole cake that has been split into two parts, but it's really important that these two parts are equal. So there's a whole cake split into two equal parts, so this represents a fraction. Or we have this shape, so the whole shape is a rectangle. So if I use my highlighting tool to go around the shape, you can see that the shape is a rectangle. However, my whole rectangle has been split into three parts. So this rectangle represents a fraction because we have a whole rectangle, but it has been split into three parts and those three parts are all equal. The next way we could represent it, we now have another cake, but this time it has been split into four equal parts. But it's still a fraction. It can be split into however many parts as we want, as long as all those parts are equal. So this fraction represents four equal parts of the whole cake. You can also see fractions in pizzas. This is really common to see pizzas cut into slices, and also a great way to see fractions because nobody wants a smaller piece of pizza than somebody else. So here we have a fraction because we have a whole pizza and it's split into 8 equal pieces. No, sorry, it's split into 6 equal pieces. Best do my crossing and counting. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 equal pieces. And these parts have been cut into triangle shapes. So our parts could be any shape, any size, as long as all the parts are equal. We've also got some lollipops. Now these lollipops are all whole and they can look not like a fraction but actually is. They've been split into equal parts or equal groups. So we have a group of 2 lollipops, another 2, another 2 and another 2. So the whole number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That 8 is the whole, but it's been split into 4 equal parts. So lots of different ways in which we can represent our fractions. So on this slide you can see 4 different ways of trying to show a fraction. Now remember, a fraction is a whole shape, a whole number or a whole object that has been split into equal parts. Now on the screen you'll be able to see 4 different ways of trying to represent a fraction. What I would like you to do is see if you can find 2 errors or 2 shapes that are not showing a fraction. So remember, it has to be a whole and they have to be split into equal parts. So see if you can pause the video now and find the ones that are not a fraction. Brilliant. So if we look at the first cake, it is a whole piece of cake, there's no parts missing, and it's been split into 4 parts. Are all the parts the same? Are they all equal? Yes, so that is a fraction, so we can give that one a tick. Fabulous. Okay, the next shape is a square. However, it has been split into parts, but the parts are not equal. This part is a lot smaller than the other parts. If that was a cake and I had the big part, Mrs. Wilkinson would not be happy. And it wouldn't be fair. So that is not a fraction. So hopefully you spotted that one as not being a fraction. The next one looks a little bit like a flan or a tart or a custard pie. This one does not represent a fraction because it is a whole pie, however, and it's been split into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. However, the parts are not equal, they're not the same. This part is a lot bigger than this smaller part, so as much as it's been split into parts, it's not equal, so it does not represent a fraction, so I can put a big cross through that one. Finally, the last shape has been split into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 parts. All the parts are equal and are all the same, so it does represent a fraction. Well done, Year 2. Give yourself a fabulous tick if you got all of those right. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at how we can write a fraction to represent a fraction that is made in a shape or object or a number. So here we have our rectangle. Our rectangle represents the whole. It's a whole rectangle. And there are something equal parts. Well, my rectangle has been split up into 1 equal part, 2, 3. So you can see 3 equal parts or 3 slices that have been made in my rectangle. If it was a chocolate bar, it's been split up into 3 pieces. So there are 3 equal parts. There is something part shaded. Now here, that's the part that is the blue one here. Now that could represent the part that has been eaten. If it was a chocolate bar, it could be the part that has been taken away, the part that has been coloured in, just to say how many parts are shaded. So in this one, there is 1 part shaded. Now to represent this, we write it as a fraction. So we say that one of the parts has been shaded or eaten or taken away out of the 3 parts that there are. And that's how we represent it as a fraction. So we have one of the parts is shaded out of the 3 parts that there are, or the 3 parts that the whole has been split into. Okay, so here is how we would represent that fraction as a number in our fractions. So now we're going to have a look at what these numbers are called because they have really special names. So the top number in our fraction is called the numerator. I'm going to put that on my board. Can you say the word numerator? Numerator. Brilliant. And that number always goes on the top. And that represents how many parts have been taken away or shaded or eaten. In this case, it's how many parts are blue. The bottom number has a special name too, and that is called the denominator. And that represents how many parts my whole has been split into. So my whole here has 3 equal parts. So the denominator means equal parts. Say denominator. Denominator. Brilliant. Denominator means how many equal parts. Let's say that together. Denominator means how many equal parts. Excellent. So here there is 1 part shaded out of 3 equal parts, and this is how we represent our fraction. Okay, so now we're going to look at how we can use a fraction to represent our pizza this time. So there are something equal parts, so the first thing we need to do is count how many equal parts our whole pizza has been split into. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 equal parts. And I know they're equal because they're all the same size and shape. There is something part taken away. So I'm getting hungry now. So I'm going to come along and I'm going to eat this part. So that part has been taken away. How many parts of the pizza have I eaten? Perfect. I've eaten 1 part. So there is 1 part taken away. So now we need to represent this as a fraction. So I'm going to, how many parts have I eaten? 1. So I've eaten 1 part out of how many equal parts altogether? 6. Fabulous. So I've eaten 1 out of the 6 equal parts. So my numerator is 1 because that represents how many have been taken away, how many have been shaded, or how many have been eaten. And the denominator is 6 because denominator means how many equal parts, and there are 6 equal parts. Okay, so we're now going to look at the final way of how we're going to represent our fraction today. So for our fraction for this one, we have got strawberries, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 strawberries. So our whole is 4 today. Our whole is a number this time. So we have 4. So I'm just going to put that there to remind me. So there are 4 strawberries. And there is 1 strawberry that has been circled. So maybe that strawberry has been taken away, maybe it's been eaten, or it could have been shaded. So that represents how many have been taken. So there are something equal parts. How many equal strawberries are there that all look the same? 4. Fabulous. So there are 4 equal parts because there are 4 strawberries. There is something part circled. How many parts have been circled? Fantastic. There is 1 part circled. So to represent this in a fraction, remember our numerator is how many have been taken or eaten or circled or shaded. So that is 1. There's only 1 strawberry that has been circled out of 4 of the strawberries. So only 1 out of 4 because the denominator tells us how many equal parts. So the fraction would be 1 out of 4, or we call this 1/4. Brilliant. See if you can pause the video now and you can go all the way up to question 6 and come back to the video when you are ready for question 7. Now all the fractions that we've been looking at today are called unit fractions. Can you say unit fractions? Brilliant. That's because the numerator in our fraction has always been 1. So whether it's been a square into 4 equal parts, we've only ever been looking at 1, or whether it's been a circle split into half, we've only ever been looking at 1 part. So when the numerator is 1, these are called unit fractions. So here we are. On screen we have lots of different unit fractions where the numerator is 1 but the denominator can be any number. So we're going to talk about how we say the different fractions. So the first one is 1 part of 2 equal parts. So when the denominator is 2, we call this 1/2. Brilliant, we've done halves before, but this is how we would represent it as a fraction, 1/2. Brilliant. When the denominator is a 3, we call this third. Brilliant, so this is 1/3. So that means it's got 3 equal parts, so that is called 1/3. Fantastic. This fraction has a 4 on the denominator, which means it has 4 equal parts, and we call this 1/4. Can you say 1/4? Fantastic. So that means it has 4 equal parts, and I've chosen to shade 1 or eat 1 of the equal parts. We call this 1/4. Then for the rest, it's quite simple. So we have 1/5. If it's a 6 equal parts, we call this 1/6, a 7th, an 8th, a 9th, a 10th, 11th, 1/12. So really carries on in a nice pattern after that. It is just our 1/2, a third and a quarter that is slightly different. Now remember, when the numerator is 1 in our fraction, these are unit fractions. Let's have a look at what it looks like if it's not a 1. Brilliant, so we know that if the numerator is a 1, then we call those unit fractions. So now we're going to look at what a non-unit fraction is. Can you say non-unit fraction? Brilliant. So if I have 1/3, so 1 is my numerator and the denominator is 3, so that means 3 equal parts, I would represent it like this. So I might have a rectangle and split it into 3 equal parts. Now if it is a unit fraction like this, I have one of the parts is shaded or taken away. However, in this fraction, 2/3, the numerator is 2, which means 2 parts need to be shaded. Now that can be any 2 parts. I could shade this part or I can shade this part. It doesn't matter as long as there are 2 parts shaded. So a non-unit fraction is when the numerator is more than 1. So it could be 2 or it could be 3. For this one, it can't be 4 because I've only got 3 equal parts. Now, if I colour one more, so I have 3 parts of the 3 equal parts shaded, I have 3/3, and we also call this a whole because I have the whole rectangle or the whole chocolate bar, so a non-unit fraction. On the next fraction, we have 4/5, which means I have 4 of the parts shaded and there are 5 equal parts. This is a non-unit fraction because the numerator is not 1, it's more than 1. So these are all non-unit fractions because the numerator is more than 1. See if you can pause the video now and complete the rest of the worksheet. Well done you two, you have done some excellent maths learning this morning on fractions. Hopefully we know what the difference between a unit fraction and a non-unit fraction, and also the names of the different numbers in the fraction of a numerator, which is the top number, and the denominator, which is the bottom number and represents how many parts are in our whole. It would be really great to see you follow up this activity by using fractions in your home. Whether this is when you are cooking, making your lunch, you could see if you can slice anything into equal parts and see what fraction you have created. It would be really brilliant to see you upload those onto Seesaw. On the next slide you will see the answers to the questions, so please make sure you go through and mark your work to make sure you are clearly understanding all of our learning. Don't forget to upload your worksheet and any photos you have taken onto Seesaw so that we can see your fabulous learning.